We gaze at the stars and wonder, what happens when our time is up? For ages we've seen life and death as a simple switch, one moment here, the next, gone. But what if death isn't a single moment but a process? Science now shows us that the end of the organism isn't the end for all its parts. Imagine a city after its people have vanished. The city is dead, but some lights still flicker, some machines still hum. Our bodies are like that city. When the heart and brain stop, do all our cells die instantly? Or do some continue, following ancient instructions? The answer is stranger than we imagined. Science invites us to look closer, to question our assumptions about the end. A new frontier is opening, one that challenges our very definition of death. This journey takes us into the microscopic realm, where trillions of cells each play their part. When the organism fails, what happens to this vast population? Do they all wink out, or do some persist, carrying on with a kind of residual momentum? The truth is, death is not as absolute as we once believed. In a lab, scientists took skin cells from frog embryos and placed them in a petri dish. No new genes, no fancy tech, just a new context. The cells did something astonishing. They self-organized into tiny living machines called xenobots. These xenobots could move, push objects, and even work together, showing a hidden potential in ordinary cells. The real shock? Even after the frog embryo was dead, its cells could still be harvested and made into active xenobots. The organism was gone, but its cells were still alive, building and moving without a brain or body to guide them. It's as if the crew of a sunken ship built a new vessel from the wreckage. These cells weren't mindless. They were organized, active, and creative. They weren't fully alive, but not dead either. The xenobots reveal a strange in-between state, a biological purgatory science is only beginning to describe. They show us the boundary between life and death is not a wall, but a vast, uncharted territory. The microscopic world is telling us, the end is not so simple. What do we call this in-between state? It's not life as we know it, nor death as we've defined it. Scientists call it a third state of biological organization, a place where parts of a dead organism still function in a limited, coordinated way. These cells are metabolically active, consuming energy, repairing damage, and communicating much like single-celled organisms. They run on biological autopilot, but lack the global coherence of a living body. They can't reproduce or form a new organism, and there's no consciousness, just the persistence of cellular machinery. This third state challenges our language and our thinking. Life doesn't just switch off, it fades, transitioning through levels of organization. The death of the organism is not the end of all activity. It's where the symphony of life breaks down, but some musicians keep playing, creating a strange, unscripted melody. The universe is full of gray areas, and death is one of them. The third state is a twilight zone between life and oblivion. Where does this lingering activity come from? The answer is information. Every cell holds DNA, a library of instructions. Even after death, cells keep processing information for a while. Think of a computer just unplugged. The screen is black, but some circuits still hold a charge. Similarly, a cell after death still has energy, proteins, and intact DNA. The cell tries to make sense of its new hostile environment, activating ancient survival programs. It may attempt repairs, wall itself off, or signal neighbors, processing information about its own demise. This isn't a soul lingering, but a physical chemical phenomenon. It raises a fascinating question. Can a kind of cellular awareness persist after death? Not consciousness, but a biochemical ability to sense and respond. Even after the director leaves the stage, the ghost in the cell continues its final act. If cells process information after death, do they have agency? The xenobot experiment suggests they do, in a way. Disconnected from the organism, frog cells didn't just decay, they organized, built, and adapted. This wasn't programmed behavior, but an emergent property, a built-in problem-solving capacity. Life's imperative to adapt doesn't vanish instantly. Perhaps cells, sensing catastrophe, try to reboot, falling back on their most basic programming: survive, organize, build. Death becomes an active, chaotic event at the cellular level. Some cells shut down, others compete for survival, turning the body into a dark ecosystem. We are a cooperative colony. Death dissolves that unity. In this third state, each cell becomes its own agent, navigating the end of its world. It's a dramatic, final act, one that happens on a stage too small for us to see. The story of death is more complex than we ever imagined. This new understanding has huge implications for medicine, ethics, and our very definition of life. If cells remain active after clinical death, where do we draw the line? It could revolutionize organ transplantation and treatments for stroke or heart attack. But it also forces us to ask, what does it truly mean to be alive? The xenobots blur the line between life and death, showing that cellular collectives can be active and purposeful without being a whole organism. We are stardust, animated by information and chemistry. The end may not be the end, just a transformation into something new. The journey to understand this strange twilight has only just begun.